Welcome once again to a journey through Papua New Guinea history. My name is Camelo Gima. In this episode, we travel back about 150 years, to the time when the first European traders and missionaries came to live among the Tolai people on the Gazelle Peninsula of the island of New Britain. The first missionaries in this part of what later became Papua New Guinea were the Methodists, led by an Englishman, George Brown. Although their headquarters were in Australia, the Methodist missionaries had already spread to many parts of the Pacific. This story is about their difficult first few years in the New Guinea Islands. It describes how 4 of the early Fijian missionaries were killed, and then how the other missionaries, combined with European traders, responded. It is a tragic and fascinating story that is an important part of early Papua New Guinea history.
When George Brown arrived, he brought with him several mission teachers from Fiji and Samoa. They came in peace, hoping to share Christianity. This red arrow on the map shows where most of our story takes place. It was on the northern part of the island of New Britain, known as the Gazelle Peninsula. George Brown, with his Pacific Island teachers, arrived in these islands in August 1875, aboard the mission ship John Wesley. Their first stop was in the Duke of York Islands at Port Hunter, seen in the top right-hand corner of this map. The Duke of York Islands lay close to the Gazelle Peninsula of New Britain. Here, Brown and his teachers made friends with some of the leading men, who helped them get established. This picture shows one of the leaders, To Pulu, with his 2 wives. Another Duke of York leader, Waruwarum, shown here with his wives and son, also made friends with Brown and helped the missionaries. On the main Duke of York Island, at a place called Kinawanuna, Brown built the first Methodist church, shown here with the first 5 Duke of York people to be converted to Christianity. This picture shows 2 of the Fijian teachers with George Brown. Aminio Bale, on the right, was stationed on the Duke of York Islands. The other teacher, Levi Volovola, was involved in the events described ahead in this story. To spread mission influence, Brown took his teachers to coastal villages on New Ireland and to New Britain. Conditions for the missionaries were not easy. They suffered attacks of malaria and several died. But at least so far, their relations with the people had been peaceful. However, everything changed in 1878. Trouble came when the missionaries began exploring inland on New Britain, looking for more places where they could spread their religion. Unknown to Brown and the Fijians, a Tolai leader called Talili, who was from a village near Kabakada, became very worried when he heard that the missionaries wanted to travel inland. Talili was one of the leaders who controlled trade that took place between inland people and coastal people. Talili knew that the missionaries, some of them shown in this picture, would take their own trade goods to help win over the people they met. He feared that this would weaken or even destroy any control that he had over the traditional trade system. Talili didn't mind if the missionaries stayed on the coast, but they wanted to meet more people. Unfortunately for them, they didn't know what Talili was really thinking. The Fijian missionaries had earlier explored a little way inland. They had been made welcome and were invited to return, and so they organised an expedition. On the 6th of April 1878, 2 groups of Fijians set out along different paths into the hills west of Blanche Bay, where they planned to meet up. The first group, led by Reverend Sailasa Nausikidi, left from Kabakada on the north coast, shown by the red arrow on the map. The second group, led by Levi Volovola, as shown by the blue arrow, started from near Raluana. The first group, departing from Kabakada, met Talili along the way, and he seemed friendly. But secretly, he was making other plans. He decided that the Fijians would have to be stopped. Talili sent a message further ahead to people in the Talakua area. The message said that when the Fijians arrived, they were to be killed. And so, when the group led by Sailasa no Sikidi arrived near Talakua, at the place shown in this photograph, they were ambushed by men who were following Talili's request. Armed with spears and clubs, they killed 3 of the Fijians. One Fijian, Penny Levu, managed to escape, and he fled back the way he had come. Along the way, as he fled back to the coast, Penny met Talili. Then, as Penny paused to drink coconut milk, Talili killed him by cutting his throat with a knife. The second Fijian group, led by Levi Volovola, soon after they left Raluana, were warned by villagers of danger ahead. Worried by this warning, they turned back to the coast. Here they were told that the other group of 4 Fijians had been killed. They hurried back to Port Hunter to tell George Brown the terrible news. When Brown heard about the murders, he tried to meet with Talili. But Talili did not want to talk. He sent a reply that he would kill all foreigners and was even making preparations to cook Brown himself. It soon became known that the bodies of all 4 Fijians killed were cut up into pieces and were sent to several villages in northern New Britain. Traders and missionaries now felt in great danger. They feared that Talili and all the villages that supported him would now try to kill the traders and missionaries. They all met at Port Hunter and decided their best plan was to strike first. Led by George Brown, they would launch a surprise attack on the New Britain villages. To strengthen their force, they invited warriors from friendly villages to join them. They began their attack on the 18th of April 1878 and approached from 2 directions, shown by the arrows on this map. In the group shown by the blue arrow, there were about 60 men, made up of mission teachers, traders, and more than 20 fighters from friendly villages. They all carried guns. The group shown by the red arrow was smaller and was led by George Brown. Hundreds of village people followed both groups, ready to steal everything from the villages after they were attacked. Only a few of the village people had guns. Some fought to defend their homes, but they had no chance against the heavily armed attackers, who joined together on the final day and destroyed the villages of the last defenders. In 6 days of fighting, many people were killed, and dozens of villages were burned down and robbed of all their valuable items and animals. None of the attackers were killed or injured. Peace was made on the 23rd of April, and the defeated village leaders brought gifts of food and shell money to Brown, along with the remains of the murdered missionaries. After his defeat, Talili lost influence. He made friends with Brown, but continued to annoy other missionaries. The Germans took control of New Britain as part of German New Guinea in 1884. In 1891 they put Talili in jail when he broke their laws and sent him to the mainland of New Guinea. He died there soon after. The expedition led by Brown was a rare and controversial event. Christian missionaries did not normally lead punitive expeditions, and he faced criticism, especially in some Australian newspapers. But charges brought against him by the British High Commissioner in Fiji were dropped, and Brown himself was certain that he did the right thing. The day after the fighting ended, he wrote, "We have taught the natives a lesson they will not soon forget. They have lost, as nearly as we can tell, 90 or 100 killed and wounded, besides their loss of houses and shell money." He also said, I felt that punishment was necessary not so much to revenge the deaths of the native minister and teachers as to protect the lives of those who were left. After the fighting, many people on the Gazelle Peninsula came to accept Christianity, and the Methodist influence quickly spread, as this 1925 map shows. Life began to change, but the violent events of the 1870s are not forgotten.
The murder of the 4 Fijian missionaries is still remembered with regret by many Tolai people. In August 2007, there was a week-long reconciliation event when a delegation of 5 Fijians, including the Fijian High Commissioner, visited New Britain. Thousands of people attended the ceremony. On behalf of the United Church and the people of Fiji, the High Commissioner accepted an apology from the Tolais. There was an exchange of gifts, and the Papua New Guinea Governor-General, Sir Paulius Matani, expressed his admiration for the courage and commitment of those first Fijian missionaries. Of all the tragic events of 1878, it is the memory of the killing of the 4 Fijian missionaries that lives on the strongest for the people of the Gazelle Peninsula. On the 6th of April each year, the United Church conducts a pilgrimage and memorial service. It takes place on the site of the murders at Tungnaparau, which was established as an official memorial site in 1959. As well, the church conducts a George Brown Day program on the 15th of August each year to celebrate his arrival in 1875. This brings us to the end of episode 5 of A Journey Through Papua New Guinea History. I hope you enjoyed it. In our next episode, we will stay in the 1800s and look at how headhunters from Dutch New Guinea used to travel on their canoes into our part of the world, attack our coastal villages, and kill the people in them. We will see how these attacks were finally stopped, and how, because of them, our western border was moved. You should find it interesting, and I hope to see you then.